off of her, what she said?
If I find out this is true, then I'm moving the out. I'm taking the dogs with me, and you can rot in hell.
I did not do anything to me, man. You. You want to cancel a goddamn relationship because of this?
Ass was for the truth, and you didn't give me the truth.
What does it matter if I did 2 or 3 times?
You are done, you piece of shit.
I promised you I didn't do it! Shut up! A squirrel would have looked at me with a pussy I would have did. Oscar goes to Brittany.
Really?
Congratulations.
Really?
His ass up yet?
So, she basically was saying that whenever you guys were at Walk and Key, you were saying, don't worry, I'm gonna you.
No.
He said he didn't say it.
Yes, you did. You said, I promise I'm gonna you.
Did I say some things I probably shouldn't have? I maybe danced on that line a little bit.
Jax Taylor was never the golden boy of reality TV. Behind the charm, the jokes, and the wild nights out, there's a darker truth that fans can't ignore. From lawsuits and fraud claims to cheating scandals, lies, and explosive fights, his life has been one long trail of controversy. Every time you think he's hit rock bottom, another story comes out that proves otherwise. This isn't the story of a misunderstood star. It's the story of someone who built fame on chaos and left destruction in his path.
Did you see the thing
I
for
didn't
me?
see
Did you see
penetration.
it?
No,
Okay,
I
so
did not
you're gonna
see
make
it.
me out to be the bad guy.
Your girlfriend. She you love and
no, I'm
want
not
to
gonna
spend
chase her down the street. I'm
Wait,
not
you
doing
should,
that.
Jax.
No.
You should.
Why? Because I didn't do
because
anything.
she's the love of your life.
Before Jax Taylor became one of Bravo's most infamous faces, he was just another bartender in West Hollywood trying to make it big. When Vanderpump Rules launched, he wasn't pitched as the villain. He was supposed to be the charming, funny guy, the good-looking bartender chasing dreams and women. But as the show grew, so did Jax's appetite for chaos. What made his story different from other reality stars was the way his on-screen persona bled into his real life. There was no line between Jax the character and Jax the man. Every fight, every hookup, every betrayal. It wasn't an act. It was who he was, caught in high definition week after week. Fame didn't expose Jax's flaws. It magnified them, turned them into a storyline, and gave him permission to lean into the worst parts of himself. By the time Vanderpump Rules hit its stride, Jax wasn't just another cast member. He was the headline, the scandal magnet, the guy fans loved to hate.
We're not talking.
Oh my God, Jax. This is why
yesterday.
you shouldn't have a girlfriend. Agreed. I can read your mind right now. You want her so bad.
If there's one thing Jax Taylor became known for, it was lying. Season after season, he was at the center of cheating scandals, cover-ups, and denials. It started small, rumors that he hooked up with someone behind his girlfriend's back. He'd deny it, call it gossip, then later admit it only when he was cornered by the truth. Kristen, Stassi, Brittany, the names changed, but the behavior didn't. Jax created a cycle: lie, deny, manipulate, and finally confess once the damage was too big to hide. This wasn't just one mistake or a single bad decision. It was a pattern, a way of living that became his identity.
You're not on an honesty kick. You're not a new man. You're the same f***ing liar that you've always have been.
I'm so sorry.
I lost my friends for months because they believed you, because that's how good of a liar you are. Everyone believed you.
What made it worse was the way the show seemed to normalize it. Fans tuned in for the drama, and Jax delivered, but at a cost. Cheating, gaslighting, and deception became entertainment. Jax wasn't ashamed of his behavior, he made it part of his brand. And the longer it went on, the more toxic it became, setting the tone for what kind of chaos was acceptable in the Vanderpump universe. Jax Taylor's reputation wasn't built on bad relationships alone. Over the years, he publicly admitted to substance abuse, alcohol problems, and self-destructive behavior. There were whispers as early as the early seasons, but it wasn't until later that Jax himself acknowledged he had a problem and checked into rehab.
Jax.
We're having a conversation. What do you want to know?
No, I know. I'm just wondering, like, you don't ever, like, feel anything. It's like
We had this
nuts.
conversation.
You ever feel this?
Oh my God. Oh my God.
The timeline of his meltdowns is messy. Emotional outbursts on camera, fights with castmates, reckless choices that nearly cost him friendships and his job. Each time, addiction became both the explanation and the excuse. Fans were told Jax was working on himself, but the cycle of apology, relapse, and chaos kept repeating. And here's the uncomfortable truth. While Jax may have needed real help, the production machine of reality TV thrived on his instability. Producers wanted the spectacle, the drunken rants, the tearful confessions, the destructive nights out, because that's what drove ratings. Rehab was just another plot point, not a solution. In the end, addiction wasn't just a private battle, it was part of the brand, fueling his volatility and deepening the spiral. Over the years, Jax has also leaned on mental health struggles in the public eye. At different points, he has referenced diagnoses like bipolar disorder and PTSD, tying them to his erratic behavior. On the surface, these admissions could have opened doors to empathy and understanding. But in practice, they often came after explosive scandals, arrests, or betrayals, almost like a shield against criticism. Fans and critics began to notice the timing. Was Jax using mental health disclosures as a genuine plea for help, or as PR damage control when the heat was too strong? The line blurred quickly. For some, it felt like a manipulative tactic: invoke a diagnosis, shift the narrative, and dull the outrage. This isn't to say Jax didn't struggle, but the way his story was packaged and sold created an ethical gray zone. It raised bigger questions. When does reality TV cross from documenting into exploiting? And when does a star's personal battle stop being private and start being another deflection from accountability? Jax's marriage to Brittany Cartwright was once marketed as a redemption arc. The wedding special was splashed across Bravo as proof that Jax had finally grown up, finally settled down, finally found stability. But just a few years later, that picture-perfect storyline collapsed. The couple split hit headlines hard: public breakup announcements, divorce filings, and most painfully, a custody battle over their child. Instead of keeping the matter private, it became fuel for podcasts, tabloid stories, and Instagram drama. Once again, Jax's personal life wasn't just personal, it was content. The darker accusations came from how he handled the separation. Brittany hinted at manipulative behavior, while reports suggested Jax used legal filings and public statements as weapons, not just to fight for custody, but to control the narrative. For many fans, it felt like the same old Jax, turning real pain into a stage, and making sure he stayed at the center of the storyline, no matter the cost to his family. If Jax Taylor's cheating scandals weren't enough, his explosive temper pushed his reputation even further into dangerous territory. On camera, he was often seen yelling at friends, girlfriends, and co-stars, not just arguments, but full-scale blow-ups that included shouting matches, profanity-laced tirades, and even moments of throwing objects in fits of rage. One of the most telling aspects was how consistent these meltdowns became. They weren't isolated events, whether in the heat of a reunion taping, a cast trip gone wrong, or a late-night drunken fight. Jax's aggression followed a pattern: escalate, intimidate, explode, then apologize once the cameras stopped rolling. Viewers could argue that reality TV thrives on drama, but Jax's volatility went beyond entertainment. His reunion room rants in particular became infamous, moments where even Bravo hosts looked visibly uncomfortable as he lost control. While some incidents are documented on film, others came from tabloid reports and secondhand accounts of aggressive behavior in public settings. It's important to separate the two. What we saw on screen was already troubling. And what's been alleged off-screen only deepened the perception that Jax was more than just a bad boy. He was someone who thrived on intimidation. Beyond cheating scandals, Jax has also faced allegations tied to his behavior in the workplace. Reports circulated around his time managing and investing in bar ventures, where claims emerged of inappropriate relationships with employees. Some sources suggested that Jax blurred the lines between boss and coworker, using his position of power to pursue staff. None of these allegations have been proven in court, and many remain tied to anonymous sources or tabloid reporting. But the pattern raised serious ethical questions. Even if consensual, relationships between an employer and employees carry a heavy power imbalance. When the boss is also a reality star with financial control and fame on his side, the risks of exploitation only increase. This is where the darker side of Jax's fame comes into focus. He wasn't just a cast member on a messy reality show, he became a figure with influence over other people's jobs and reputations. And the idea that he may have crossed that line with employees paints an unsettling picture. One where power and fame weren't just used for drama, but for personal gain at the expense of others. When Jax Taylor tried to reinvent himself as more than just a reality star, his big move was opening a bar in Studio City. Marketed as a trendy spot, it was supposed to show fans that Jax had matured, that he was now a businessman, not just a messy Bravo villain. But just like his personal life, the business quickly attracted controversy. Reports from staff painted a troubling picture: complaints about mismanagement, toxic workplace energy, and conflicts with employees. Some alleged that the bar inherited Jax's chaotic personality, rules changing on a whim, staff caught in the crossfire of his temper, and high turnover that fueled speculation of deeper issues. The bar faced cancellations and negative press almost immediately, with online reviews highlighting the same kind of arrogance and dishonesty fans had seen on TV. Instead of separating his brand from the scandals, Jax seemed to bring the same dysfunction into the business world. What should have been a redemption project only cemented the idea that Jax's toxic behavior wasn't confined to reality TV. It was a way of life that followed him into every space he entered. Even Bravo, a network built on drama, eventually hit a breaking point with Jax Taylor. Behind the scenes, producers were said to have issued ultimatums over his behavior: get treatment, rein in the aggression, or risk losing your spot on the show. At different points, production reportedly had to step in when his volatility went too far, both for cast safety and liability concerns. The cracks widened as sponsors and promoters began distancing themselves. Canceled appearances, dropped partnerships, and whispers that Jax had become too much of a liability signaled that his value as a drama magnet no longer outweighed the risks. In the world of reality TV, where bad behavior usually equals good ratings, that's saying something. By the time Bravo finally cut ties, the industry pullback was clear. Casting directors, promoters, and even fellow stars recognized the truth. Jax wasn't just unpredictable, he was uncontrollable. And in Hollywood, that makes you a risk nobody wants to take on. The very personality that made him famous had also destroyed his credibility, leaving him exposed without the safety net of producers willing to clean up the mess. Jax Taylor may be reckless in person, but online he's always tried to play a different game. Over the years, his social media has become a tool for damage control. Whenever a scandal breaks, you can almost predict what comes next. A staged apology video, carefully worded PR-style captions, or photos that show him with family, pets, or new beginnings. He's leaned on sobriety messaging, claiming personal growth right after explosive incidents, often with polished images that look less like honesty and more like strategy. It's not just about sharing his life. It's about rewriting the narrative, appealing to fan sympathy, and drowning out the headlines with curated content. But for many viewers, these posts have the opposite effect. They don't rebuild trust, they erode it. Each apology looks more like spin than sincerity. Each staged family photo feels like a mask covering the same destructive patterns. In the digital age, Jax isn't just living a double life on reality TV, he's extending it onto Instagram, where perception matters more than reality. With so many scandals swirling around Jax, it's important to separate fact from rumor. Court filings confirm his divorce and custody fight with Brittany Cartwright, including dates, filings, and the drawn-out disputes over their child. Rehab stints and treatment admissions are also part of the public record, giving weight to the narrative of addiction struggles. But here's the key. Not every accusation has been backed by legal documents. Allegations about abusive behavior, sexual misconduct, and employee relationships remain unproven in court. They've been reported in tabloids, whispered by insiders, and circulated online, but they don't carry the same legal weight as verified filings. That's why it's critical to distinguish between fact and allegation. The scandals that appear in legal records, custody filings, rehab confirmations, tax documents are undeniable. The others, while serious, remain accusations until proven. In Jax's case, the sheer volume of both confirmed and alleged misconduct paints a picture of someone who thrives on chaos. But as always, the most reliable lens comes from court records and primary sources. For years, Jax Taylor thrived on fan attention. The louder the scandal, the more people tuned in. But eventually, even that strategy backfired. Sponsors pulled out, bookings dried up, and appearances were canceled. Jax went from being a headline star to a financial liability. His fan base split into two camps: diehard defenders who insisted he was just misunderstood, and a growing crowd who demanded accountability. That divide showed up on social media, reunion specials, and even in the reviews of his bar. The more scandals piled up, the harder it became to find anyone in the middle. And when the financial consequences hit, lost partnerships, failed ventures, and long-term reputational harm, it became clear that his brand wasn't built to last. Chaos may make good TV, but it doesn't pay the bills forever. Looking back, a clear pattern emerges. Addiction, explosive anger, workplace misconduct, manipulative PR stunts, they don't stand as separate chapters. Together, they form one continuous loop. Jax misbehaves, denies, makes excuses, and then spins out another public apology. The issue isn't just the individual scandals, it's that they repeat. Over time, isolated mistakes stop looking like accidents and start revealing character. And in Jax's case, the pattern shows someone unwilling to take full accountability. Instead of growth, we saw cycles. Instead of maturity, we saw new excuses. The man who once seemed like reality TV's biggest personality became its biggest cautionary tale. The impact of Jax Taylor's behavior goes far beyond the headlines. Victims, co-workers, employees, and even his own family have all carried the cost of his decisions. And on a larger scale, his story reveals something darker about the reality TV machine, how easily entertainment can blur into exploitation, and how damaging behavior can be normalized when it boosts ratings. This isn't just about one man's downfall. It's about asking whether we, as viewers, should keep rewarding destructive patterns for the sake of drama. The answer isn't just about Jax Taylor, it's about the system that enabled him for years. His charisma didn't hide the dark side, it fueled it. So, what do you think? Should Jax face stronger consequences for the damage he's caused, or is he just another reality star chewed up by fame? Check the court records, read the filings, and do your own research before you decide. Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear if you think Jax's time in the spotlight should be over for good. And if you found this breakdown eye-opening, hit subscribe and stick around. Because next, I'll be releasing a full-source timeline video that digs even deeper into the scandals and receipts behind the headlines.